Do we need the like little we
Hello.
need the countdown, the Vanna White
Yeah,
countdown.
yeah.
How's it, everybody?
G'day. Hello.
Good
I haven't got
afternoon,
my
depending
comments
on where
tab
you live.
open.
Good
It's
morning,
early
good
afternoon for me.
afternoon, and hello.
Actually, it's late afternoon for me. 4 o'clock.
There you go.
It's early morning here.
Yeah, two
Yeah,
two
well,
here.
that's because you live on the other side of the world, Dave.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah,
Oh, you know what? I should. So
it's
you guys
only
aren't getting any
97 degrees here too.
no feedback at all on my audio or anything, right?
No, you're
That's
good.
good.
Okay. I just realized I have been no headphones. You just got the speakers on my laptop going. So I'm just gonna
It
roll with
sounds
it.
a little different than the headphones though. You can hear a little bit, but
Oh,
so
okay.
on this, I mean, you could always try to put them in really quickly. We're not in a
Yeah,
hurry.
I-
We're
I'm gonna
here.
do it.
So the
I can
circadian rhythm
listen.
thing, I kind of talked about it last week. I think because summer's here, I just figured it'd be a fun topic talking about getting out before sunrise if it helps, or you guys have noticed anything, and not using sunscreen. Just the whole thing since summer's here. That was kind of the idea of the topic, I guess you could say.
I just thought you were talking about the noise that the cicadas made.
Yeah, I always call it circadian rhythm because I don't like pronouncing the R. Circadian,
Oh yeah, I've
I'm
always
having a
heard it
hard time thinking it.
pronounced
Circadian.
circadian rhythm, circadian rhythm as well. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Cardamom rhythm. What? No, wait. That's a spice. No, wait. So that's kind of what it was about, though. Because now that I've been back to my hiking, I've been back hiking every morning again. Except for this morning, I was gonna go hike, and then I got a text. It's like, hey, have you got those headshots done? And Dave and I were talking about this offline. I still do a lot of editing for people, and it's like, I need those headshots. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get right on them. So I came down here and did that. Plus, because I'm doing a dry fast, I kind of thought it might be good not to go hiking in the desert when I'm not drinking water, just by
Probably a
chance.
good idea. Yeah. Wow.
Go do a 4 mile hike. And it's like, what happened to Chad?
So
So
regarding the
how
dry
many
fast,
hours?
how long are you doing it?
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
what I
going to
was
do
gonna.
it, I think, for at least 24 hours, and I'll see what happens if I can go through the night to 36 hours.
What's the goal? Because
I,
I just can't imagine doing a
it's
dry fast.
it's just, it kind of supposedly, the theory is that it works like a regular fast, but it's even, if you do a dry fast, it's even like more intense. Like you get more autophagy quicker because your body's like, okay, there's nothing here, kind of thing. And I've always heard about them, and I just figure what better way to know and try it. And the other day I was watching, oh, come on, I can't even think of it now, Bart K. And he was like, they were ranting on about how he was doing a dry fast, and she was like, yeah, and he's all grumpy, and so I just kind of got this idea because I was planning on fasting anyway. I'm like, well, since I'm going to do a fast, I might as well see what happens. So I'll let you know. If I'm not here like in a few weeks, it didn't turn out well.
I have never done I fasted on a few occasions for extended periods of time, but I've never done a dry fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could go without water. Yeah.
It was easy
Or
until
coffee.
about an hour ago. Yeah. It was
or
easy up
coffee.
till an hour ago.
Until
I've
you
never
started
even
talking
done.
about it.
I've never even done just a water fast. I've done a fast with liquid with just no calorie liquids whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. So just coffee or water or whatever. But even those recently, I've never even done probably for quite some time a fast without any calories, I guess, because like even then, the difference between drinking some heavy whipping cream in my coffee and drinking my coffee black is significant difference on my on whether or not I get hungry. And so even
Yeah.
when I've done, like one meal every 2 days, which I haven't done for a while, but I still will have a little bit of heavy whipping cream. So even then, you have a little bit of, a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein, and whatever carbs are in heavy whipping cream. So not a lot, but a little. So I've always had still just a little. Now that's not a lot because it's still just the amount of cream I'm putting in my
Yeah.
coffee. But um,
That's still some calories, I guess, but I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if it
it's
really
still
counts.
something. But I've noticed that it makes it. I was just drinking coffee black for quite some time, um, just to cut cream out completely to see if it mattered very much on my sinuses at all or anything. And the only thing where it mattered the most was whether or not I got hungry at 11 o'clock compared to about 2 o'clock in the day. Right. So that was the biggest.
The,
That was the biggest difference I noticed, and I like it better with
Mm.
cream in it. So
Mm.
those two things.
do you ever do like
Anyway, you side
72-hour fasts, Dave? Have you ever tried
48's been
many?
the
Like
longest.
48?
Yeah,
Okay.
48.
Oh,
I've
okay.
done 2 48-hour fasts. And it feels great, but it's hard to work up the motivation to start it again.
Yeah.
Kind of you feel good doing it, but it's hard to work up to it.
For me, the
Yeah.
first day sucks. The second day feels awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and I've not done even 48 hours probably for a couple of years, I would guess. Uh, but the longest I've ever fasted, which was many years ago, was 12 days. Um,
12
but I've
days.
not done anything. No, for me, the first day, actually, if I eat a big meal in the evening, the first day is really not. It's not too much trouble for me.
Mm.
If I'm doing just fat and protein, I'm not doing any, no peanuts, no blueberries, nothing, and I'm just doing, carnivore. The first day isn't
Mm.
too bad. The second day, I will start to get hungry, but by day three, and if you've never done a longer one, Dave, you will experience this if you ever do. After 3 days, you rarely get hungry. And
Really?
after four or
Usually
five
because you're
days,
comatose on the floor.
you will sometimes you'll have a craving, but really hunger pains are not an issue very much at all.
Interesting. Interesting. So you just kind of switch off from even thinking about food.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Fung does some really interesting things about fasting, and he talks
Yeah.
about it quite a lot. And it's again like so many other things we've heard throughout our entire life. The notion that like you go into starvation mode if you fast, and your metabolism slows down and all those kind of things. The inverse is true. After day three, your metabolism does not slow down. Your metabolism actually increases. And
Wow.
in fact, it's one of the only ways to really boost your metabolism naturally. I mean, you go on a 3-day fast, your metabolism increases, it doesn't slow down.
Yeah.
And of course, he talks
Mm.
about, um, whatever, no matter where you would be on the issue of being created versus evolving or whatever, but he talks about it from an evolutionary point of view. That you just think about as a man would have evolved. He can't get anything to eat for 3 days. He can't burn all his muscle off and be a fat blob after 30 days, right? No, the inverse is true.
Mm.
Your metabolism increases, your body actually jacks up, your adrenaline flows more because you have to go kill something, right? And so that's kind of the way that it is.
I've only done a
Mm.
few 72s and I have good energy on the third day.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
So
Mm.
tomorrow
I
I'm
haven't
still going
done
to
one,
go
You
but
hiking no
you
I'm
you're
matter what.
motivating me to give this a try.
but I'm
You
exactly
know,
like you, Dave. I know it's good, and actually, it's really good for your body. But it's just the notion of like being motivated enough again to like say, oh yeah, okay, I think
Mm.
I'll do a 3-day
well,
fast. It's like, yeah.
remember I said I was
Yeah.
going to start doing these after my whole dad incident and everything and me kind of trying to drop back down the weight. And it's really interesting cuz I'm still kind of like not losing what I thought I would to get back to that plateau. So I figured that if I do some fast and if I can drop down, from another fast, and then see if my body starts doing it. And I do think sometimes if you kind of shock your body into something, you can break those kind of stall cycles, because I'm kind of on that stall cycle. Not that I'm overweight, but I've been 178 for the last 3.5 years. And right now on the scale, I'm about 192. So, and I did get to 197 at the highest year just recently with my dad and all the stress. So I'm also trying to, just to see if I can get back down to where I was for the last 3.5 years, a little quicker, maybe a little quicker, because I am going down. When you look at the trend, it's going down, but it's, and I just want to try it. I think you guys know that about me by now. I love trying whatever, but my lips are dry. My lips are dry and my nose itches.
Yeah, and you
It's
totally
my lips are
sidetracked this.
really.
You totally sidetracked us from the circadian
yeah.
rhythm, Chad.
But
Talking about
this is what
your
it's all
dry
about,
fast.
though, isn't it? Isn't it? That's what it's all about when you get with a group of friends, that you just start talking
Yeah.
about whatever.
So have either of you done, like, I've not done a huge amount of research on sleep or the circadian rhythm or anything like that. I know just from watching people in this space and other people, the notion, the whole thing about sleep, about
Who's that guy? Who the heck
you
is
know
that guy?
that type of
Oh,
stuff. Yeah,
that's you.
exactly. Is really important. I don't know about the. I don't sleep enough. It's probably the worst thing that I do health wise. Is I don't sleep enough hours probably, and I do get up early. I don't get up with the sun, and I don't go to bed with the sun, unfortunately. Um, so I don't know. I don't have a lot of thoughts, except for my biggest thought about sleep would be, since the dawn of man until 5 minutes ago, a little more than 5 minutes ago, but we basically did everything during the daylight, right? I mean, you have oil lamps, you have candles, you have a fire. You could light your house somewhat, but you didn't do much once it got dark, right?
Yeah.
And you had to get up early because you had to do stuff, right? You had to plant some food or go. I mean, even in ancient civilizations, it didn't matter. You were working from early morning until the end of day. And in the winter season, you actually rested a lot because the day's only like 7 hours long, right? So even if you're getting up at daylight, you're not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning in the dead of winter because it's pitch black. You're not doing anything, and you're not staying up till
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night because it's pitch black at 5:30. And so your days are shorter. You rest more out of necessity. And you're cold more because of the fact that you didn't have central air and heat, right? So yeah, you had a fire in your house, but it's not the same as like today where I have 6-inch walls and R19 insulation. My temperature does not fluctuate a great deal within my house.
Yeah.
Wherever I put the thermostat, it stays. And in the wintertime, when I build a fire in my wood stove, it's like 78 degrees in here, right? We're never cold. Where people would have been for thousands of years until again, um, you know
Yeah.
the widespread availability of electricity has radically changed that. So.
I'm going to hit this question since this is actually what we were joking and talking about. Maybe you didn't know
Yes,
that.
okay.
I'm trying the dry fasting right now. This is the first time I've done it. So I'm on 20 hours. My nose itches because it feels dry inside, and my lips are dry. So far, that's what I think about it. I don't know. It's not that hard, but it's kind of getting hard. At 20 hours, it's starting to like. I've got this sitting here. I don't know why I've got it sitting here because it always just sits on the side of my desk, I guess.
You talking about
kinda
your lips
tempting.
dry makes me want to use my
Yeah.
okay.
So if I'm licking my lips more than often, that's why. But I'm gonna try it, and I'll let you guys know. You know what I mean? When we get together again, I'll definitely be talking about it. I'm gonna shoot for 24. I'm gonna see how I feel before I go to bed. If I think I can make it go to bed, why not do 8 hours more just by sleeping?
Wow.
You know, and I'll see what happens if I wake if I wake up. You know,
I
If I
maybe
I
don't
I'll
almost
drink
feel
evaporate
bad.
coffee.
overnight.
Yeah.
I almost feel bad, Chad. I have a cup of coffee and a mug of water,
All
and
good though.
like I don't go. And Dave is screwing the lid off of his right now. We're back on. I
Yeah.
wasn't watching.
So the circadian rhythm thing, what do you think about
There
it,
it is.
Dave? Or what's your thought on this? Or what time do you get up and what's your son's schedule?
Well, I think, I'm competing with Chuck for lack of sleep, I think. I go to bed, close to midnight, and I'm awake at 5 most mornings. So I
Hmm.
don't go to bed with the sun, don't wake up with the sun, nothing. Although the sun starts to come up pretty early in Japan in the summer. Like the sun beats me in the summer, I guess. Like the
Yeah.
sunrise is like 4 a.m. or something. But yeah. But I never look outside. I never look at the sun. I never, yeah. I'm a terrible,
You guys should try it.
terrible
Just try
example of,
getting up and
yeah.
try being out for like 15 minutes when it rises. It'd be a fun
Yeah.
experiment.
Uh,
So
Mm.
my
does do, do you take naps, Dave?
My body tries to force me to, but I don't. Like I'll be sitting here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, editing a video or whatever, and I'll just suddenly like drop off. But like, so if I'm
Yeah.
not
See,
active, if I'm not standing, then my body will be like, okay, maybe you should nap.
yeah.
yeah,
That is the tragic habit that I fall into. And again, if I'm doing something, it doesn't really hit me. But
Mm,
if I'm not, it really does. So
yeah,
yesterday, well, the last 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, uh, both those days, well, Sunday morning we had church, but then as soon as we got done, me and the wife went fishing, and we went fishing Saturday as well. And so I didn't take a nap Saturday. I didn't take a nap Sunday, and yet I went to bed at 12:15 last night, and I got up at 6, and I was not tired. I mean, even at midnight, I thought I really need to go to bed,
mm,
and I probably could have stayed up longer. But I just knew Monday mornings rolling around 6 o'clock. I've got to get up. I got to be in the call queue at 6:30. So I have to do it. And so I went, but it was probably 12:30 or later before I went to
yeah.
before I went to sleep. And then,
mm,
yeah, about like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon really hits me.
mm,
And I get off work at 3:30. And so, it's so easy for me to fall into this trap of I'll go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, get up at 6. You get off work at 3:30 and lay down for an hour and a half. And then it
mm.
just compounds the problem, right? Because now
Yeah.
I'm not at all tired at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, right? And so I wear my blue blocker glasses sometimes, I'll drink I'll drink some of the say or the electrolyte mix we have with plenty of potassium in it, along with the sodium and or plenty of magnesium along with the sodium and potassium, help me rest. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it just doesn't. Now, if I turn all the lights off and I turn off my computer and I turn off the TV and I don't have any, none of that, then yeah, I'll get tired. But as long as I keep my brain activated and going with
Mm,
all of that kind of stuff, yeah, I can just stay up. I could naturally just stay up until 2 o'clock, and
mm,
then I just wake
I
up
used to
around
be that
6,
way
even
more
without
so,
the
but
alarm. And then
mm,
usually on Saturday I will catch up some. Right, I'll sleep in some for at least a couple hours a lot of times. So it's a terrible
uh,
habit,
mm,
but that's why I wanted.
yeah, on this, I
mm,
don't get it. I'm just a person that likes to test everything. That's just I just want to see what happens. I've always heard about dry fasting, and to me, it's like I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of the same thing. Like I never had to drink electrolytes. Doesn't mean some people don't. So I'm just going to see if the fasting works, just so you kind of know why. And again, because I heard, Bart K was talking about it and joking about it. I'm like, yeah, just, you know what? I'm going to fast anyway and just try it and see. So that's kind of how that got up. But for me, I think it's real. I think the circadian rhythm, I notice a huge difference. When I first started this whole journey, I actually got an Apple Watch to track my sleep because I used to never have good sleep patterns. And I was always up late, and it kept me up. Now I can go to bed and I actually go to bed. Like I go to sleep like right away, which I've never done my whole life. When I worked on the boats, I would get up before the sun. And I don't think I've noticed the same things I do now. So like right now, as of summer, because I'm doing this 3 to 4 mile, actually about 3 to 5, about 4 miles every day average. My alarm is at 4:30 and I'm just switching it to 4:15. So tomorrow I'll be getting up at 4:15 a.m. because that puts me on the trail at 4:30 and sunrise is at 5:25. So the first part of my hike will be in the dark. And I just find I'm way more productive and way more alert during the day. And I just feel way just calmer and just way better. And that kind of every time I've got, like when I got out of it there for a while, the last few months, I definitely noticed a difference. Besides, obviously, everything I was going through, I just definitely noticed a difference in my energy production. And the second I started hiking, about like a week or so into it, it was like just not back to night and day difference. So
Now,
I do think there is something to it. I really
is
do.
there
And the sleep.
is some of it though the fact that you're actually hiking? Like if
No,
me and Dave got up and looked at the sun, I do see the sun on occasion through the window when I'm making coffee, and I could go out on the deck and actually have the sun hit me. I did that
I
actually
think
quite a bit last summer.
there's more to it. There's
Okay.
way too much research. And when you follow the research, it's the old saying, follow the science, and I usually find nothing. But when I research the science, I find money. Then you find the money and you see where it made science happen. There's so much research on the circadian rhythm that I think it's like pretty true about all these things they're finding, because there's no money in a lot of these studies they do that people do better. But you really have to be outside. It's not like glance through it at the window, but it's like being outside, letting the sun hit you. It's how you get that in your eyes, everything else. Not just like, oh, I'm going to get some extra vitamin D, but just everything about how your eyes open, how it opens your body. And it's even like alarm clocks. They've pretty much proven that if you have an alarm clock that's a light that goes off in your room and naturally kind of rises, you wake much better than you do for the other. So I think there's enough research that there's something there. Now, how much is there? I don't know. So even when I would do it before without my hiking, I don't think there was much of like a difference as far as just being alert and having a good day waking up. There's just something about it.
Now, I do know that there is, in fact, I did a video quite some time ago, the benefits of being in the sun, because there's an incredible amount of research about that as well. So the benefits of just being in the sun, even for 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, is incredible. And there's lots of stuff, including it reduces the risk of cancer, including skin cancer. So being in the sun is awesome. But again, I didn't know, I what I had done a video about wasn't about early morning sun or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I'm certainly probably, I'm sure that probably that's a good thing, right? It's just
Yeah.
for for me, like I guess in the wintertime, I do see the sun come up in the winter because of the time change, right?
I
I
think the
still
only
have to
thing you
get
can
up at
do is
6
just
o'clock.
test it for a month. Just test it for a month. Just get up, get outside, make sure you're outside for that 15 minutes through sunrise and you're outside 15 minutes through the sunset, and test it and see. That's the only way we're going to know. I think on this, the body is natural. Just let it tell you, wake up when you wake up. Yeah, to a point, but there's also some things I from my own testing, I would say I do think there's something to the sunlight, because it's pretty there's so much proof that people who work night shifts have a lot of issues,
Yes.
various types, from not having sun. So I don't think you can just totally go with like, hey, let your body do what it wants. I can hear Dr. Chafee's voice, hey, take cocaine when you want. He would say something like that,
Well, I
That's a
think
good thing.
that
That's what my body wants,
I
And I'm
I
not trying to
think that
mock it or say that you're not correct in some sense, but I do think there's something to it. And again, the only thing you could do is like really test it with an honest test that I've just found there's something to it. The same thing with my sleep. When I make sure I get enough sleep, when my sleep's off, it's a totally different thing. And I do believe, and there's a lot of people, not just me, there's quite a few other people that say you really do need to get as much sleep as you can, like 7 hours, five
yeah,
isn't really enough for most humans.
I'm
Very few.
probably shy on that, as well as Dave. Me and Dave are shy.
Yeah.
I think the thing about you probably, I think that there's some amount of legitimate thing about let the body do what it wants, but I think what happens, like in my case, which I talked about earlier, I can do that, but naturally, what I would end up doing is staying up super late at night and getting up at 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
It's easy
But
to
I would
push yourself
never,
to stay up. It's easy to
right.
push yourself to stay up to get things
Well,
done.
see, and actually,
And
what happens is I stay up because I keep my mind occupied with either reading, watching a video, studying opening lines in chess games, whatever, right? And
yeah,
so I can keep my mind going.
It's a series of
And also
stimulants, right?
I drank too much
yeah,
coffee, right? And so I stimulate myself, and then finally I'll like be totally exhausted at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I could do that. I think that it's okay to like if you're kind of operating normal. I mean, it's just the same way with what you eat. I eat when I get hungry, and as long as I'm not eating crap, I can just let my body tell me when I need to eat, what I need to
yeah,
eat, and those types of things. But if I'm doing a lot of stuff that's not healthy to begin with, I'm eating a bunch of carbs or a bunch of crap, and I'm just eating donuts. Yeah, then I can't trust my body, right? And so I
yeah.
think that you can do it as long as you're not, doing things already that kind of take you out of what you would be doing in a healthy way naturally, right? You
Yeah.
can you
Let
can
Dave
listen to
hit
your
this.
body if you're doing things right.
I'll let Dave go on this one first.
The question, I would like to know everyone's 3 favorite meats, please. Meat would be steak, lamb. What else? Steak, lamb,
Or maybe cuts
and
of meat.
cuts of meat. I go
I don't know. We could try both.
I fillet, lamb chops, and what else? I don't know. Salmon.
There you go.
Your meat variety is not very wide, Dave, because you can only think of two meats, right? So that tells us that you're eating primarily lamb and steak and not much else. Yeah, and
Yeah.
bacon's not on your list. You don't like bacon?
What
Oh
about
yeah,
you,
bacon,
Chuck?
not salmon, bacon,
Yeah,
bacon.
bacon. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Eggs,
I
because they're
mean,
going to be meat one day, and
yeah,
bacon
yeah.
and steak.
Yeah. I think that lots of people's favorites may be similar. I mean, our least favorite might have been different more. But yeah, probably ribeye is my favorite steak. I also like filet, but I like ribeye a lot. I eat bacon. I could eat bacon almost every day. That's all I've eaten today is bacon, and so far that's all I've eaten. And it's interesting. I used to love hamburgers, but the truth is, I loved hamburgers because they would be on a bun with cheese and dill pickle slices and ketchup and mustard and all that kind of stuff, right? It's the same with like Chicago style hot dogs. You know, I I do eat hot dogs on occasion, but not in a bun and nothing. And if my wife grills hamburgers, she grilled some just a few days ago. They are really good. I like that flavor a lot, grilled on charcoal.
Mm.
But it's not like my favorite. So, I like ribeye, I like bacon, and I actually like ham steak fried. So nice thick
Mm.
ham steak fried. Eat that with eggs, with some cheese melted on top and stuff like that. I really like that a lot. I mean, there's
Mm.
other beefs that I probably would like. I like chuck roast. I like a lot of that stuff, but ribeye is by far. If I'm going to eat steak, I prefer ribeye, and I really like bacon a lot. And my least favorite meat is probably chicken. And
For
we have a
me,
lot.
Yeah.
for me,
We have a
like
lot of.
ribeye's my favorite. Ribeye's my favorite. I feel best on lamb, and I like chuck because it's cheap. So I guess in order, my three is like ribeye, lamb, and chuck, in
No,
various mixes of that, and that's pretty much all I do. I do eat some ground, but not too often. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Mm.
I actually like goat meat as well, and I like lamb meat as well, but um, not as well. If I could just pick every day, I would just probably eat ribeye
Hit the
most of the
like
time,
button.
ribeye and steak. But
Mm.
we don't.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Well, for me, like I said, I like ribeye the most, but I do optimum on lamb, but I can't afford ribeye that much. But I eat lamb 5 days a week, at least nowadays. And
Mm.
often it's like chuck besides that. And I just get ribeyes when they're on sale. But, I'm just not particular really anymore. The longer I do this, the less particular I am about stuff, but I still want to enjoy what I'm eating. But I'm like, if you gave a 5-year-old a bunch of stuff out in front of them, they would just eat what their favorite thing is. I'm kind of like a 5-year-old, but with meat. So I'm just going to always pick out my favorite meat that I like. So I'm just glad they're not like Smarties or malted milk balls or something anymore that I used to like.
Mm.
Here's my feeling about it. The more we try to tweak our nutrition, sleep, etc., the more problems arise. Just eat ruminant meat, drink water, take in some mineral salts, live as natural savages. Fair enough. I think that's, again, you got to find what you do. Me, I, I'm kind of, I don't know about tweaking because I don't really think, I tweak it too much. I just eat meat, salt, water, sleep, but I'm willing to try things to see if I get better results. And for me, the early morning rise comes really natural. A lot of times I'm up 10 minutes before my alarm. So to me, that does say my body naturally wants to get up. And that's part of that circadian rhythm that I don't really need an alarm clock.
yeah,
And once you get
yeah,
in that routine, it's really amazing too, because when I get tired and go to sleep, I do that. I used to stay up and push my mind and keep thinking, and now I can actually shut it off. So, yeah,
yeah.
I can hear that, but I think it's still worth trying, I
Mm.
Yeah,
guess, like,
I
the
think
sleep
that
thing.
the thing about living though, naturally, that again, I just go back to that thing about I I
Yeah.
I can completely agree with that, but if
Shut off all your
naturally
electricity
means
and water and see what your
yes, yeah,
sleep
well,
patterns would be.
yeah, if naturally
That would be
means
the way to do
that
it.
you don't flood yourself as soon as the sun goes down, if you've turned all the lights off on your house and you're going to use oil lamps and candles, I think that that's a big difference than having a huge amount of blue light just flooding your house at all hours. And if
Yeah.
you're disciplined
Mm.
enough to do that, I think that you know
And what
that's
are
what
you
most
doing
of
for
us are
work?
not, right? We
What do
don't
you
really
think of this,
live
Dave?
in the natural setting anymore.
What do you think about that thought?
I
It's good. It's good conversation. Again, I want to make clear, I'm not going against you. I'm just giving my viewpoint. You know what I mean? 100%
yeah.
love for you,
Uh,
brother.
I think I think we should just do what comes natural. But I think part of the problem is we've moved so far away from what is natural that we don't have as much of an instinct for it anymore. But yeah, like I would agree. The more we intervene, the more likely we are to
Yeah.
create problems. Definitely. But yeah, I think for me though, on one of the things you said there, Chad, like waking up before your alarm goes off, that happens to me too. But I think I've kind of programmed my body into that. So like when I'm
Yeah.
resting, I'm not completely resting. I've got in the back of my mind, I'm waking up soon. I'm waking up soon, and
Okay.
that kind of flicks a
Yeah,
switch,
yeah. I do that as
Mm,
well. I do. Again, I don't disagree with what A1 is saying either. If what you do is actually just put yourself in, and again, I think the best example for me is just the fact that I do now listen to my body when I eat. I eat when I'm
mm,
hungry. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. I try not to just eat
Hmm.
out of boredom. I can trust my hunger pains, because that's what it is. But I think it's because I put myself in a position to where I can do that. And I think if you put yourself in a position
mm,
where you can just trust your body's desire for sleep. Like I'm not in favor of saying, okay, you got to have 9 hours of sleep. And so I'm just going to, set the alarm on my watch and go to bed at this time, get up at this time, and those types of things. But if I create an environment that I
mm,
can naturally do that, I think my body will tell me how much sleep I naturally need, right? Maybe I need 6.5 hours, and that's sufficient. But I think I have to put myself in the proper position to allow my body to do that, right? Kind of untrain it. It's like I used to eat 6 times a day, right? I don't anymore. But it took a
Yeah.
mm.
long time to get to where I didn't. And in
I
order to get
think
there, I had to
too,
do what was natural and kind of normal, right? Which was
I
eat,
lived I lived
not
off the
carbs.
land for 6 months out of a 2-man tent and gathered water, hunted every day, fished every day. My buddy and I got this harebrained idea to not touch a store, not do anything, and that's what we did. And it was tough the first 2 weeks, and then we got in this routine, and it very much became we were up naturally before the sun to get
Mm.
out and do what we needed to do. And it was very natural that we were still super active until like nightfall type thing. And then when we would go to bed, it would be like both of us noticed we would go to bed and we would sleep. There was no kind of
You
like thinking
you'd be
about
tired,
things.
right? Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, but we were
Mm.
insane, and we got like we got really pretty darn ripped. I mean, we
Yeah.
both noticed a big difference in how we were, and it's
Wow.
funny because this is again in the Hawaiian Islands, where it was almost this idyllic place for it. But it's a lot of stinking work. It's a lot of work
And
to
and
just live
that's
off the land. It's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna go lounge in the hammock. I mean,
that's the other thing
so
about today versus, even 100 years ago. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. One reason why I can stay up until 1:30 or 2 o'clock at night is because I don't do anything. I mean, my job is to be on a computer and take phone calls and do IT support. If I actually had to get up and go out and do some type of physical labor and be moving all day, that also would really be radically different from what I do now, right? And so,
Mm.
um, which again isn't natural, you wouldn't say, right? Like no IT work existed, 100 years ago.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I don't have to walk anywhere except, like from my bedroom to the bathroom and, to my laptop. I don't even have to leave my house. So I work from home. I don't even have to get in the car and drive anywhere. And so again, it is what it is for me. That's just my situation,
do,
but it's not
do you
ideal,
like
right?
do you like sardines, Chuck?
You know what? The last time I have a video on, I did a 72-hour sardine fast, and it's probably been almost a year ago, and I've eaten one can of sardines since.
How about
So
you, Dave?
They taste all right, but I'm not crazy about the smell, so I don't have them
Yeah,
very often.
I know a lot of
we,
people do the sardine fast, which is cool if it works for you. You know what I mean? Me, I don't eat bait fish. That's my
the
joke. That's what I
the
always
pr-
say.
the
I
problem
just like
the
eating the other
problem for
fish that
me
eat
was
them.
it did. I think there's some real benefits to eating like a can of sardines every week, but it just ruined me. Um, And
Yeah.
so I've just not eaten very many since. I like sardines. I didn't love them. And at the end of my 72 hours, it was like the last day I didn't eat. Like the last day of my 72-hour sardine fast, I just didn't eat until my fast was over and I ate a steak. So
On this
the hunger was not
on this
sufficient to
point,
overcome eating another can of sardines. I was
yeah.
just done. So
So on this point,
Mm.
I feel better after being in the sun. I think that's the key thing. What about you, Dave, when you're outside? I feel
yes,
better. I think that's part of the proof to
Yeah,
me. And
I
I know,
mean, feel better, more awake, everything. Yeah.
yeah, I do as well.
the longer I'm in
Mm.
the sun, the better. I guess maybe there's something to that sunrise is getting the maximum amount of
Yeah,
sun. And when I
Joan
eat,
looks. I was going to say the longer that Joan's in the sun, the better she looks as well.
yeah,
That's my
well,
wife.
you got to get
Mhm.
out there. Yeah,
Ah.
Well,
I
I
figured,
I
but
hope it's my wife.
it,
I think it is.
but it's like get out there, and
Mm.
try it. That's the biggest thing. And I think this is key. Most people who do work night shifts end up being in this brain fog and doing something. There's definitely something to being out in the sun all the time. And
I
again, I'm
think
not
there's
trying
quite
to
a
say it's there. I think the circadian rhythm, being out there, getting natural about stuff is a big
yeah.
thing.
I think there's quite a few studies. I've heard Dr. Ken Berry talk about it and some other people that people long term that work night shifts have poor health outcomes.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
that's very well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I read one of the doctor's books, one that said something similar. Yeah.
yeah, and they have often have if it's long term night shift work, they often have sleep disorders. It's hard for them to get corrected even after they change back, right?
The
It isn't.
Mm.
infrared, is there, I've heard some of the stuff on infrared before, and I know that there's also like the wavelengths, that those wavelengths of sunrise and sunset are what's so important.
Mm.
And I don't know exactly how that relates to the infrared things, but I definitely know it's not necessarily midday. It's that, in photography, it's always that golden hour. It's always that sunrise and sunset golden hour that's best to shoot in. But I'll have to look into that more if that infrared light is part of it, because I definitely
Well,
know it's the
I
morning
think for sure
angles.
there is a thing about the blue light, right? It
Yeah.
actually does affect your it does affect you
Mm.
significantly. It affects the your hormones. It does a bunch of stuff, right? And with serotonin levels and melatonin levels, all of those things are regulated, not totally regulated, but a lot of that is regulated through blue light, which is
Mm.
you get when you're outside.
Dakuguan.
Or if you're sitting in the house in front of lights that are emitting endless amounts, right? So
Mm.
Yeah. I'll tell you one funny kind of little anecdote. When I lived in the Caribbean, the island that I lived on, everybody would say, all right. They'd be like, yeah, man, all right. And you walk by them in the morning, they're like, all right. And they'd always say that. And I did ask them one time, I'm like, what is with just blurting out the all right? And they were like, we just assume you're going to ask us how we're doing. So we just kind of forego that part and just tell you. And I love that mentality of those people, because you know what I mean? That's pretty cool. And if they didn't, they would tell you all about it, Yeah,
Mm.
man, see this lump on my foot, man. It's not, no, feel it, man. Feel it. No, pinch it, man. It's not going down, man. And they would be like all on their thing. And it was just this total, it was a lot like Maui with people kind of laid back, and there is something to it when people, I think, from places like that of heavy sun base, like in the islands,
Mm.
are up with the sun, because almost all of them do get up early to get out for the flat water, because it's always flat in the morning. So you're flat water fishing, whatever else. And there's something to those people that are so mellow.
Mm-hmm.
Just an observation.
Mm.
yeah, I just when you were saying that, like, oh yeah, just touch it. It's like no,
They
I
would
just
do that. I had that
I
happen.
know, I
That's
know,
why I
I
remember.
know,
Actually,
I
I think he said it
know.
was buns or something on his feet,
That's
or
why I was
bunions or whatever.
smiling. It
But
was like, oh yeah, feel this. No, no. It's like when somebody tastes something that they think is off, It's
taste
like,
this.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't think this is good. Smell this. No, look, if you don't think it's good, I'm in 100% on that, right?
I'm good
I
with
don't,
you.
you don't need my confirmation, right? Like, taste that. You
Mm.
think, no, no. If you think it tastes off, you've immediately, you know, we don't need to do any further testing, right? I'm done.
No,
So,
I know.
and touch this, like, oh yeah, I have that spot right here. Feel that nut. It's like, I got plenty of my own things to feel, right? I
I
don't
can
need to
let
be
you
feeling
feel.
yours.
I got a good spot for you guys to feel though. If I meet you in person on my head, where I had my skull fractured and it formed this big lumpy
Yeah, say, I don't want to
thing
feel
that
that.
sticks up out of my bone.
I
I
just
have this
trust
big
you on it.
noggin on my bone.
Yeah, I trust you, Chad.
Hey, I have a question. This is not off topic, although a little. So I know that you're hiking all the time.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard of the Memorial Baton Death March? It happens every year. It is
Is that the one
26.
in New Mexico or whatever?
Yes, at the White Sands.
Someone was
White
talking about
Sand.
that before too. I've heard that before. I know
26.2
it's
miles. It's
there. It's a
marathon
ruck,
distance.
isn't it? A ruck,
Yeah, you can
or is
do it
is it
with
a march?
well, the people that do it in, like, kind of like record time with heavy packs, they're still running the whole time. 35 pounds
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
heavy pack, but
Mm.
you don't have to do a pack. You can just walk it, but it is 26.2 miles, whatever a marathon distance is. My One of my son-in-laws has done that twice, and he wanted to do it again. And my daughter was like, "No, don't go do it again." And I said, "Well, what if I did it with him?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Look, just say yes, because what's the chances that I would actually do anything to prepare for it?" She said, "That doesn't matter. I'm not taking the chance." But if you're hiking all the time, it's not very far from you, Chad.
Yeah.
It's in
I
March.
might, because I have a pack on every day when I go out. It's not much. I probably only got about 15 pounds in it, some camera gear that I go up and do those videos and some other things. And then sometimes I'll have a towel in there. For the summer, I won't be doing it because it's just way too hot. But for the winter, a lot of times I have a different pack, and then I'll put towels in there. Then I'll just take rocks and put towels in the rocks, wrap it up, and throw it in the pack so the rocks don't rip up the pack. That way, I can just adjust as I go.
Mm.
So I do ruck, and I'm actually getting more into the whole ruck thing, kind of in a
Yeah.
natural way. I think on
Mm.
this, I have to agree. Tweaking too much can make things difficult. I do want to say, yeah, for me, I love testing, so I don't make it difficult. I'm just curious about things and I try it and I move on because I'm living every day. And I've been doing this for over 5 years. So for me, it's kind of like all these long term. I think if anybody has to go out of their way, it's tough. And I think there's some people that do well with tracking food in an app. And I think they need that. And there's other people that don't. What say you, Dave?
Well, I think the thing with tweaking is I think there's a
What?
difference between tweaking and testing, right? I guess I'm saying this more from an IT background than anything, but like when you tweak things, that my feeling is like tweak this, tweak this, tweak this, tweak this, and then when something works, you don't actually know which thing it is that works, and before you know it, like everything's a mess and things aren't working anymore. So I think it's like if you're testing, it's like I'm going to do one thing and for an extended period of time, and I'm going to see what it's like and how my body reacts to this, and then you can kind of isolate things, and you know what's working, you know what isn't. I
Yeah.
would say.
Here in
Yeah.
Missouri, tweaking is, meth addicts. So
Yeah.
it's definitely bad. Tweaking is bad. But no, that's the thing. I think probably what his point was, or I'm guessing maybe this is not his point, and maybe he can just chime back in. But uh, I do agree that if you become kind of burdened down with micromanaging, like, your protein versus fat, and I'm going to measure out how much salt I take in, and I don't know. That seems overly burdensome to me, and probably not all that productive. But I think, to Dave's point, that you do kind of find what works better for you. I've mentioned this often. My wife eats more fat than I do. And so she'll put extra butter on her steak, extra butter on her hamburger, whatever. I don't like that. I don't like all the extra. But, I didn't know that in the beginning. So those kind of things, if you're talking about small changes just to kind of get to where you feel the best, right? But I'm not too much into, you know, micromanaging. And the shotgun approach, like Dave said, is probably not ideal because you don't really know what you don't really know what it is,
Okay.
right? That's made you feel better. But I don't
My
know. I mean,
analogy,
small changes work. I think that's fine, but I don't feel the need to be overly burdensome and with counting macros and all that
no.
that
So,
kind of
like,
stuff. So,
besides me doing the sun thing, getting up where I wasn't, and for a long time, I was getting up after sunrise and hiking after sunrise, like after the sun. I did in the winter, I did it where I was up before the sun. And I didn't set my alarm back this summer because I have to, because, it's just the different suns coming up. And I noticed a difference. But the moment about a week into me putting my alarm before sunrise, I started feeling better. So I did get a little bit of A/B comparison. And even the other day, my front door lock broke. So I ended up tinkering with my door lock for about 2 hours and I got out after. And that day wasn't nearly as good, but maybe I was upset at my door breaking. It's like me trying goat for 2 weeks and I didn't notice much difference. And then me trying lamb and I noticed a difference. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something. Then I went back to chuck steak and then I went back to lamb and it worked. And then
but
I
you
went
should go back to goat.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Maybe
have
the
access to it
goat.
like I do the
Maybe it was
lamb, but
delayed reaction.
well,
You would have felt better on
it could
goat.
be,
You
but
were just
I'll try
starting
it
to
again
feel
if I
good,
can
and then
get
you
some.
got
But
on
I think
lamb.
goat and lamb are probably close. But I think that's
They're
too like
very
when
close.
I test stuff rather than tweaking, it's like I want to know that kind of stuff. And that'll lead us to
Dave,
this. Dave, why don't you
let me
take this
ask
one?
Dave real quick
Yeah.
before he answers that question. So
Go ahead.
Chad is actually hiking with
Mm,
weight, right? So he's
right.
rucking, and you're still doing IT work right now as well, right, Dave? Is that no? Or you're doing you're
No, not at the
teaching?
moment. On a
You're
bit of a
teaching?
break at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. So are you are are am I the only one that's basically doing nothing physically?
Probably.
And
Well,
so
I'm walking
let's
about an
hope
hour and
not.
a half a day.
You're walking or you're waking?
Walking
Oh,
about hour and
I'm
a half a
awake
day.
at least an hour and a half a day. Okay, so you're walking an hour and a half a day. So
Yeah.
I am the only slacker
Yeah.
in the group. Okay, well that's pathetic.
I don't know if I'll get like big buff arms, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm gonna start doing some videos of like the junk I'll be doing with rocks along the trail and stuff for good. I got to have something in my back
All right.
pocket.
Well, one
Take
thing
this one,
is
Dave.
shame is a good motivator, guys. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
contrary to popular belief in modern society, shame is a powerful motivation. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Dave.
All Funny Dog Stories is asking, are any of you gentlemen taking supplements or are you just eating regular food now? If yes, what kind of supplements are you taking and why? Thank you. Well, me first, no, I'm not taking any supplements at all. So yeah, just regular food, ground beef, eggs, salt, water, that's it. How about you guys?
Go ahead, Chuck. Go
I
for it.
I do a couple drops of iodine. Um, I will. I mean, if you call electrolytes a supplement, we do. I don't do it every day, but I do it probably most days, or at least half the time. So a little bit of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and outside of that, I if I'm not out in the sun a lot, which I'm not as often as I should, obviously, from the first 40 minutes of this video, my wife will often encourage me to take like vitamin D and K1. I I do sometimes. So I'm just kind of. If there was like a once a month instead of a once a day, there's some things I would probably take. Like I would probably take some more vitamin C, maybe,
Yeah.
but predominantly, I mean, do I normally take stuff? Probably the most routine thing I do is a little bit of iodine.
Okay.
But
For me,
I do nothing else
I'm
really.
last 5 days I've been doing creatine. There was
Yep.
actually an interesting thing about mental health creatine and stuff that came out recently I watched, but it was also I just wanted to see. And I know I'm getting enough from steak. I know I'm getting enough from meat. And again, it's me just being curious and testing because I want to try to put on some more strong muscle coming out of that issue with my dad and everything. I was going to do it earlier. Do you remember me talking about that before, Dave, quite a while ago? That I was going to be doing that, if you remember that. And I decided to put it off because there was nothing going on. So I wanted to have a baseline for at least 2 weeks of the stuff I'm doing and then start it because I know it's going to take a while to develop and go through. And I'll probably do it through the summer. Then I'll, do a couple of tests. And I'm just curious if it can help because I have read some stuff that it can help being over 60, actually wanting to put on some muscles just to have that little bit of extra. The mental health thing was about, I think it was like 25 grams or whatever, is actually the dose that they found this mental health benefit in people that were older. And the average is usually about 4 to 5 is all you want. So it's not something I'm really doing as much for the mental health that I just saw it there and I was kind of curious. So otherwise, no. And as far as eating regular foods, yeah, I just eat lamb, ground. Before this dry fast, though, get this, Dave. You know what I had the last 2 days? I had 8 of each eggs. Because you know how I tell you I test eggs every once in a while how I'm allergic to them?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if my
And how
nose
did
is
you
itching
do it?
because of the eggs. I'm wondering now I'm going, I wonder if my nose is itching because of the dry fasting or the eggs. Because I notice my arm occasionally has an itch. And that's my problem. I get really itchy skin. So I had 8 eggs yesterday and the day before. And then after this, I'm going to go to Costco and buy like one of those huge double packs of or whatever eggs. And I'm going to keep eating them until I really get that. When I'm walking around the house, like rubbing my back on the corner of walls, that's when I know I'm super itchy like a bear, in the woods.
Do you guys ever misread the comments? So I
Yeah,
glanced over at
in
the
my head.
comments. So Alexis said, "Oh, you have a beard." And then the next comment, I suggest I do, and as I'm typing, I see the next comment pop up, which I thought, I want to have your babies, and I thought, okay, that's like, but that's not the comment. It says they want to have babies. I don't know who they were talking to, or just out. I mean, not my babies, I'm sure. But
I think
I'll say
I
one thing on
think
this
this
is
is
I
the
actually
missed
life of
six
part of that.
months.
Brian comment.
Yeah,
It was
I've
actually
missed
6
part
months
of
on
the
this one that we
missed part of the
that I lived off the
conversation here.
land.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, preparing
Which is
for a day in
also,
the
I
spotlight.
lived out of a 2-man tent that whole time. So I lived out of a 2-man tent for over 6 months. That was fun, though. That
My
was
wife has shut
pre-marriage.
the air
Guess that.
conditioning
Can you
off
believe that was pre-marriage?
to keep the noise down in this room, which is now an oven. Like in your air fryer, Chad.
Yeah. I know everybody says don't eat the sardines out of cans. Who says that? I think Bart K says that and a couple other people. That's the only thing that makes me wonder if you can get fresh sardines because I hear a lot about that. Any thoughts on that, Dave? What you've heard?
Yeah, I mean, I do it, but I don't think it's the best thing to do. Like I imagine it's the whole process of putting it together in the factory, and the oil and whatever, it just doesn't seem like it'd be
Are sardines
all that
popular
good
in
for you.
Japan? I know there's so much fish that is. There's so much seafood there, but do you
They
know if
sell
sardines
them,
are, or is
but
there
it's
other?
all canned. It's all canned stuff, Yeah,
It's most of the other caught fish that you guys get.
Yeah,
That's fresh. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to eat sardines, where I live in the middle of Missouri, you're eating them out of a can or you're not eating them. So it's just you're not getting them any other way, right? I live in the middle of nowhere. in the middle of the country. So it's out of a can or
I
not at
guess
all.
going with this comment, I just say, everybody should try everything and see what works. I always say as a fun, try it for 30 days, get up, try it, see how
I'm going
you
to try
feel.
it, Chad. You have convinced me.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to. No,
An
seriously,
eye on it.
because look, my wife prompts me every morning, right, to go out in the sun. I can walk right out on the back deck and see the sun come up, right? And so, um, and it's really nice out there, and the weather's been pretty nice. It gets hot during the day, but currently the mornings and the evenings are really nice here. So,
Sorry, guys, just to jump in, I'm gonna have to jump off.
Yeah.
But
trying to get
this will
through
still
these
be
here.
this will still be running on my channel. So anyone that's watching from my keep going. I just I've got another commitment I've got to get to. Apologies for that.
yeah,
Thank you
actually,
for
no,
No worries.
we're right
You're
at
the
5, and I'm
schedule
gonna
man.
bail as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'm just going to look through this really
thanks.
quickly to see if there's any more, but yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks. Yep.
All right.
And
Thanks, Dave.
we'll be back.
Cheers,
Ahoy
guys.
ho. Yep.
See you.
Always.